Jordan and I became friends because we're both working on this Next Tech initiative where there's some really great entrepreneurial opportunities and a consortium of entities in Northwest Ohio, UT, Bowling Green State University, ProMedica, and Mercy Medical. And we're all working together to kind of foster a community of collaboration and entrepreneurship. So Jordan asked me if I would give a talk today, and he was talking about HCI, human-computer interaction. And I thought I'd share with you some stories of software that I've worked on and how I've used human-centered design to guide the software development process. So I hope you find this interesting. So this is me. Do find me on social media. I would love for you to reach out. The Collab Lab is the space that I'm directing at Bowling Green State, and I'm happy to talk to you about it afterwards, but basically it's a big open floor plan with like couches and chairs and collaboration spaces where people from different disciplines can get together and work out ideas. And what we're seeing happening is that that's exactly what people are using the space for. So we're seeing folks from biology collaborating with people from the humanities, working on projects, either the research projects or even entrepreneurial stuff. We also have 3D printers and laser cutter and 3D scanner and video editing equipment, so we can build low fidelity and mid fidelity prototypes so that we can then take these ideas and show them to people. So today I want to start by talking about a project that I work on that translates spoken English into animations of American Sign Language. And we do this with 3D animation. So this was my doctoral dissertation, was a part of this. I'll give you a quick just overview. This is an application that can run on multiple platforms. You speak into the microphone, and it generates animations of sign language so that a deaf person can see the utterance in their primary language. The justification for this is that people growing up deaf, usually American Sign Language is their primary language, and English is their second language. And so it's just like when we go to school and study Spanish or French, we may be able to speak Spanish or French after we take it in high school, but it's still our second language, and it's not totally comfortable. Would you agree? Yeah. I tried so hard to learn Spanish, and I still stink at it. So I'll show you a demo of this, and then I want to talk about how we tested it with members of the deaf community. So this is just this is going to be an animation of a sentence, and I can probably voice it for you so you can understand what it means. So she says, there's 3 friends, Al, Bob, and Mary, and Bob tells the 2 of them, it's my turn to buy coffee. Al says, I want a small coffee, and Mary says, I want a large coffee. And as you can see as I'm voicing over this, that my words don't match the signs that you might, so this is coffee. The grammar for American Sign Language is very different from English. Do you know how like romantic languages, you put the verb after the noun, and in English we put the adjective after the noun, and we put the adjective before the noun. Sign language is similar to that, but it's even further different. Do you know sign language?
A little.
Yeah.
A very, very tiny bit.
It is so complex. So I took this on because one of the other PhD students is deaf and had this idea. I do graphics and animation. I said, let me work on this with you. And it turns out to be way harder than I thought it was going to be. So we've got to take a speech input and then parse the speech input. We use an off-the-shelf speech recognition because, like, why reinvent the wheel, right? But then we parse it, and then we have to convert it to an American Sign Language gloss, which is different. So that's like where the natural language processing comes in. And then we use that to generate the animation stream. So, here we go. So this would be used, we envision it to be used at reception desks when someone wants to check in to a doctor's appointment or at a hotel, anywhere, any place where the interaction is sort of predictable. This isn't a perfect translation system, just like Google Translate isn't a perfect translation system, but it works well enough to get the point across. And of course, if we had a deaf presenter here, we would hire an interpreter to come because an interpreter does this way better than a computer can. You know, so we tell our interpreter friends, like, your job is safe. Now to do, this is a bit, I don't know if you want to know about the implementation, but we have to characterize the sign language in terms of geometry because ultimately it ends up on a 3D model. And so we've come up with this system where we have a library of hand shapes. So if you know the alphabet, it's A, B, C, D. There's the whole alphabet of hand shapes plus about 20 more. And then we have a series of targets and end effectors. And we use this to define a sign. And so every sign can be defined by the combination of hand shape and then location of targets and end effectors. Is that good? Okay, so that's the, I will wave my hands over that. But maybe the more interesting thing is that, and this is where the HCI part comes in, is that you've heard the term human-centered design? Yeah, what does that mean?
Based around a person?
Based around a person? Yes. It means your design starts with a person. And all through your design process, you have to check with the people, the users. Now, if this is for deaf people, that means we have to test it with deaf people because we're making animations in a language that we don't know. Okay, I took ASL classes, and just like I took Spanish classes too, but I only took 2 semesters, and I stink at signing probably worse than I stink at Spanish. So we had to do usability testing. And we're all academics who have studied human-computer interaction, so we know what the books say about doing user testing, but the books don't tell you how to test with a population of people who you don't speak the same language. Not only that, but when a deaf person signs and then an interpreter translates it, it's moving modes from a gestural language to a verbal language. And this presents all sorts of difficulties. So typically, we'll have our testing set up like this, where the participant will be at the screen watching animations. The facilitator, who's one of us, is over here guiding the test. A note-taker sitting behind, and then an interpreter would be sitting in front in view of the participant. And this works fine. But getting a population of deaf people together at one place to do testing is really expensive because they're sort of dispersed all over the place. And so this we did at an event in Chicago called Deaf Nation Expo. And it's like a trade show kind of for folks with disabilities. And we were able to get a booth and offer people a $20 Amazon card if they would participate. And we were able to test with about 30 people. But this was the only real big population that we could get. Otherwise, we're asking people to drive in from all over the place, and we have to offer them $100 or so because that's how much it costs for them to take that time out of their day to come and do this. Let's see. Oh, it came back on. Oh, good. So all I have to do is tap. Yeah. Technical easiness, not difficulty. So anyway, we had a hard time collecting data. And there's all sorts of other things, because we have to, when we're doing testing, we have to submit the protocol for the test to an institutional review board. That's kind of like at a university, that's how it has to be for any testing that you do with humans. And it was really hard to get that approved because there's so many strange factors here. We came up with another approach too. And this is an online testing system. In keeping with our project, it's entirely done in Sign. So you've used online survey tools before. Yeah? They can ask you Likert questions and true-false questions and fill-in-the-blank questions. Well, we recreated that for the deaf community, where this interface has the testing animation, the thing that we're trying to evaluate here, and the instructor is signing. It's a human signing over here, and there's absolutely no English. So if he's asking, on a scale of 1 to 5, we were actually testing for a certain affect, which is the way that the signer looks, like their emotion, like do they look angry or do they look happy? So our facilitator can ask them, push this button if you think that the signer is happy, press this one if you think they're angry, and so on. And this reduced the cost, and we were able to do a large-scale study because we could send it anywhere in the world. And it didn't, we still offered people a gift card, but it was a $5 gift card because they're sitting at home. We could do, instead of taking all day at this trade show to do testing with 30 people, we could do 100 people, and it didn't matter because the computer's doing the testing for us. Right? So this is one approach to solving that problem. This make sense? Is this interesting?
Yes.
Okay, I hope so.
Complex.
Yeah. So don't get me started because.
To be honest, it's complex.
Yeah. So now the next story might be even more relatable. So anybody here who, well, when Nate asked who's an entrepreneur, and a bunch of hands went up, and I suppose there's some folks in this room who have come up with an idea for an app before. Is that right?
Yes.
Yep, me too. Yep. The problem with coming up with an app idea, if you've ever approached anybody for funding, is that the development costs for an app is really high. So setting up a website, not as quite as high, but making an iOS or an Android app is really expensive, and it's difficult, and it takes a lot of testing, a lot of development. So I want to show you my approach to doing app prototyping, where you can do testing and validate your app without actually building it. And there's several ways to do this. This was just my approach. I had an idea. I'm a musician, and kind of self-taught, but I sing and I play guitar, and I also do digital art. And I was sort of thinking, how can I combine those two? And I thought, just wouldn't it be neat? I don't know how useful it is, but wouldn't it be neat if you had a touch screen app where you could draw, but while you draw, you could sing, and the microphone would pick up the notes that you're singing, and those notes would be translated to color. So you draw, but the color that you're drawing depends on what note you're singing. And then you could even map the volume of your voice to the width of the brush stroke. Right, wouldn't that be cool?
Yes.
Again, I have no idea what I'd use this for, but I was like, wouldn't it be cool?
Yes.
It's an idea.
So I, of course, to build it, I know a thing or two about doing software development, having worked on projects, and I looked into the costs to build it, and way cost prohibitive. But I wanted to move this forward, and so I did the only thing that I knew to do, and that was to fake it. And so I made a concept video of what this app might look like without writing any code whatsoever. It's just a bunch of video clips. And so, come back, there it is. So what I'm going to show you is this video that I made you'll see an app in the video. It's totally fake. It's just a screenshot. And you'll even see an animation on it that was done in After Effects. So I just opened it up in this Adobe video editing program, and I drew in the animations for it. So it looks like a working app, and it's totally not. But you'll see how this video is almost as good as playing with the app yourself. It's called Sing and Sketch, by the way. That's not it. Come on.
It's quite alright. I need you, baby.
Fake.
what are you doing? Oh, hey, sweetheart. I'm painting, and I'm using my voice to change the color. Mom, can I try? Sure. There, you've got it.
Introducing the Sing and Sketch painting app, an exciting new way to digitally paint. Sing and Sketch allows an artist to combine simultaneously singing and drawing. The pitch of the voice input modifies the color of the virtual paintbrush. While singing or humming, the artist can paint with a finger, and the color of the stroke is determined by the pitch of her voice. If you want to use your voice to change the color, but you don't want to change constantly, you simply stop singing and that color will be locked in. When you are ready for a different color, just sing in a different note. In the upper left of the screen, there is an eye icon. This is a shy button. When pressed, it will hide all visual elements, allowing an unobstructed view of the canvas. The button can be moved anywhere on screen by dragging it into position. If you press the button again, it will bring all visual elements back into view. Located next to the shy button is the brush size slider. Moving the slider from left to the right changes the brush size from minimum to maximum. In the upper right hand corner, there is a current color indicator and the note identifier. This will update in real time as the user changes the pitch of their voice to show the current color and note. The tab located on the left side of the screen is the flyout menu. This contains all...
You get the idea? Okay, yeah, I figured. So anyway, so the video explains all the features of it, and you saw even that where the face was drawn.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell you how I did that. I opened up QuickTime and I opened up Photoshop, and in QuickTime you say record screen, and then I don't draw this well. I asked my student, I gave her a Wacom tablet and asked her to draw something, and she just started to freehand draw, and I recorded the screen in Photoshop and QuickTime. And then I brought it into Premiere and I time-lapsed it and I shrunk it down to speed it up. And that's it.
Wow.
Let's put it in. Yeah, so bottom line is I totally faked this thing. Shot that at a friend's house just using normal DSLR cameras and did, so it took hours of, doing the animation and everything and editing. It took some hours, but nothing near what it would take to develop this. And so with this, I was able to do with this, I was able to do a study and publish. And so you think, oh, don't you need to have the app done? Not necessarily. If it's human-computer interaction or user interface, we collect information about people's perceptions. So I can show somebody this video and then ask them a survey about, would you use this? What context do you think it would be used? It turns out that a lot of people indicated that autistic children would benefit from an app like this. You say the same thing?
I just wrote this in my notes.
Yes! Good.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think, and I was thinking, like, kids would love this. Parents with kids in the back seat would probably hate it. Woo, all this crazy noise. So I ended up publishing this in the Applied Human Factors and Ergonomics Conference, which is an international conference. So this was good for me professionally, and now we're working on a beta version of the app, and I was able to get buy-in because I had not only this prototype, but also some data to validate that people would use it. And that, I think, is the big takeaway, is that when you come to someone with an app idea, they can say, yes, it's a good idea, no, it's a bad idea, but as Jordan will tell you, it's all about getting the target market, getting some validation data that says people will buy it. Yeah. So, as far as the process for doing either low fidelity or high fidelity prototyping and app development, it's all about building it, testing it, and repeating. And I guess my advice would be do what I do, and that is take small steps and then test, and then take more small steps and then test. Don't hire a developer and spend thousands of dollars before you've even evaluated anything. Show and tell people. Don't be really don't guard this. So I shared this with our university, the IP officer, and he said that there's nothing to really patent here. Go ahead and talk to people about it. And someone might steal this idea, but I don't think they will. And that's been the case with other inventions I've come up with too. You don't need to be really guarded about your IP. It's better to talk to people and get feedback and be able to improve your product. And when somebody tells you that your product stinks, or you do a usability test and you find out that you made a huge flaw in the design, then you just pivot, figure out the right way to do it. And then the last one is just to move quickly, iterate quickly, don't get too married to any one design. Yeah, and I think that's it. If you guys want to tweet me at BG Collab Lab, I would love it if you followed us. And if you're ever in BG, come pay us a visit. It's a really cool space, and I'd love to have you there.
Yeah. All right, let's get it over for Jared.